Hello everybody and welcome back to another trading recap where I cover how I did on the day and a whole recap of it. This recap is for Friday's price action. A little late, but hey, I'm gonna still do it because it was a super important day for myself personally as I've been trying to improve on just SMTs, more so discretion building and um, trade management slash break even management. So how did I do this week? I made over 4 grand, super chill, 2 wins, and I think one break even. Oh, I think it was just 2 wins. 15th trade of the 30 trade challenge, doing super cheeky, around an 80% win rate, give or take, think or 79 around there. Super easy day narrative wise and um everything wise, to be honest. If you went break even today, no worries. That's super valid. Most people did, but I didn't. I took full TP, and I will be covering why, as it was more of a discretionary decision. Um, yep, super chill day, and just I got super good this week on what I was lacking last week. As last week I went break even, and there was around an avoidable loss and a break even that I was pretty avoidable. And yeah, overall, just trying to shave down those break evens that lead to wins and getting better at trade management. So let's cover the high time frame narrative and bias going into the day. So something to take into consideration that we are all-time highs. I don't want to be shorting at all-time highs. I'd rather just wait for a long setup, or if we're shorting, get a short bias. Yeah, I would just more rather trade from the inefficiency rather than trade towards it, because all-time high conditions don't require price to actually rebalance these overextended ranges or these inefficiencies as normal and as much as um, other conditions of price action might be. So yeah, we're just rejecting this area of RB for or gap or whatever you want to see it as, super overextended, etc., etc. But then after this, we see that this whole range is actually getting a rebalance of a 2 hour and 4 hour inefficiency right here. And then after that, we just have distribution and all-time highs above us. But if we take this little fib, we see that equilibrium lies in this first 1 hour gap, and we have a 2 hour gap right below that. These gaps are going to serve as my main conditions and not anything lower or higher, as yeah, this is going to be the best way to mark these gaps out to read price action. Now, getting into the executional side of things. What happens when market opens? Market opens and just dumps into this 1 hour gap, and we get an inversion out of it. Is this valid? Yes. Did I take it? No, I did not take it. Why? Because it's around 1 to 2 minutes after market. Just not really something I practice taking. I hate taking those types of setups. And actually, let me leave this shit so you guys can see price action as a whole. Okay, where are we? Okay, yeah, we end up just taking those all-time high conditions. Wow, should have done that on the other video so you guys could see that my narrative was actually insane. But yes, this is a completely valid trade. If you took it, if you lost, you're washed. This should have been break even at the internal high, or even a valid close above. Not sure if this gets that 1 to 1. I highly doubt it though. But yeah, this is a completely good trade. If you took break even, that's valid. If you took a loss, it's not valid. And yeah, I was just expecting remanipulation based off of time, and I just don't want to see both assets edge this 1 hour right below. Um, just personal preference, and what I had accepted at the time was if this setup really distributed and displaced higher, I would just take a continuation long after it. This initial setup being my confirmation towards that bias. So I was essentially just waiting for more internal structure to form. Now, what happens? This 10 a.m. macro just sends us lower and distributes us. So getting into this, why I took this 1 minute was because in my personal experience, a lot of the time, some setups like the one on Monday, um, a not a higher a previous leg of worth of price action. For example, let me explain this like this. Let's say there is a 1 minute gap right here, but we create a new swing, and there is now a 30-second gap here. What I would like to take, or a 2 minute and then a 1 minute here. What I would like to take is this 1 minute gap because it uses everything else as targets and conditions to break even levels or etc. With this thought process, taking this 1 minute would just eliminate target, taking this 2 minute would just eliminate targets and just create worse RR, sure more confirmation, but it's completely valid to take this because we created a new leg. And you're supposed to take the highest time frame inversion of the leg. So if this leg is forming here, there's no reason to take it on this leg. Unless you're just like kind of a pussy, right? So for this whole leg, yes, I do agree the 5 minute is technically the most valid inversion to take because of the high time frame macro being 10 a.m. and you don't want to trade but before 10 a.m. or during, and because this whole leg is the 5 minute leg. But that would have been a break-even trade at this 15-minute high, because it's such an external high and we have even 15-minute conditions above. This is just a super amazing break-even level. If you want break-even, good shit. But at the time, because there was a gap here on the 1 minute and nothing, the 5 minute hadn't been created, and maybe the most valid. Hold on, let me check something. I forgot. Sorry, it's been a day already. So this inversion takes place at 9:59, while the 2 minute gap gets created at 9:58. Huh. Okay, now I don't remember when I entered. Maybe I took this 2 minute. Okay, so I think I may have made a mistake. I should have taken the 2 minute. Okay, so explaining, yeah, on this leg. Oh, I remember now. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, so you guys see how on price action there's a 1 minute gap right here, and then another swing gets created. My thought process was that any other gap that took this, that didn't involve this high, was another swing. As you can see, the 2 minute doesn't have that high, so it's just taking all of that price action as a whole. The 3 minute either, and the 5 minute obviously does not. But on the 1 minute, we see that we kind of break that structure of this leg, create a new leg, and get a gap right here. So my thought process was that this leg was the newest leg on the 1 minute, that in the other time frames it wasn't present, so it was valid to take this inversion. Is this insanely valid? No. Do I regret it? No, because that was just my conviction at the time, and I honestly still agree with it. Just not to the highest validity, because normally you want to wait for better structure if you're going to take a separate leg. But yeah, no, I think this is completely valid. The only thing I disagree with is taking it at this 10 a.m. But at the time, I had accepted that risk because 10 a.m. didn't create anything of significance to remanipulate my stop loss. Even then, I did wait a couple seconds just to make sure we were actually distributing and not just raping my stop loss. As you can see, this candle was a bit scary. So yeah, I expected the 10 a.m. macro to distribute higher, which was basically the only con with this trade. Because yeah, you just aren't really. I don't advise you to trade like 9:59, 9:55 and onwards, because 10 a.m. will just like rape you in the long run. However, 10 a.m. just didn't have a reason to violate me. And so with that, I expected 10 a.m. just to distribute, as this manipulation was going to be enough for the whole session. And as I predicted, 10 a.m. completely distributed all this low time frame LR, leading to a high time frame DOL, took all-time highs, and we cooked. Yeah, so whole narrative was right. Let's talk about break even and trade management. So going into this trade, why did one of my accounts go break even? It was because it got filled like right at this candle, because I was waiting for a little bit better non-chop, like, because here it was just going down a lot, just kind of being a little scary. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait a little bit just to get confirmation that we're actually distributing from this setup and not just 10 a.m. is gonna like cook me. So as I was entering on all of my accounts, on one of them I entered like all the way up here. So the fill was really, really, really bad. It would have been like here. And so it was a break even. But talking about the rest of the accounts, I got a fill like around right here. Yeah. So what happened? What happened was that this internal high gets taken and it gets stopped out at break even. Why didn't I go break even? Because this low time frame like internal high just was a super mechanical break even, and I don't agree with it, and so I did not take it. Instead, I put it at this more external low time frame high, it being this, I think, 930 high. Wait, hold on. It wasn't 930 high, but this minor buy side liquidity and 15-minute intermediate high. Just all these external levels, I decided to just take this one as it was like the more low time frame one. I had just had more conviction on, which ended up being like these two, the ones that sent price to break even. So yeah, but to be honest, after we got a super, super nice close above this level, I went break even. Not here, I think around here. Just because us sweeping just and having this much of like a tick size, tick spread on my take profit, I was already fine with it. And it just seemed like it was going to distribute. And if it wasn't going to distribute after we swept this high and after this chop and after everything, and we just don't take this external high, I just wasn't really confident that it was going to distribute. But overall, I was super confident. And last little thing about trade management and break even is that yes, the 5-minute was the high time frame version, but I marked it out and made sure we weren't displacing from it, rather through it, because I wanted this 5-minute 2 inverse to so my trade could play out. But I marked it out, and if we were just reacting from the CE of it and just reacting really bad from this like 5-minute inefficiency, I was gonna go break even. But since we're just displacing through it and displacing just getting super good reaction from it through it, so it just added towards my conviction of not going break even and just taking full TP, which it ended up being just a super, super nice day and a more of a discretionary decision by me. Super, super rare that I trade like this, but it had 99% validity and a little bit of discretion, which is what I want to be practicing, what I've been trying to practice lately, especially just trying to shave those break even that lead to wins, because I feel like if you have like around a 50 to 60% of them, that's pretty bad. I want to keep my break even that lead to wins below 50%, and currently they have been around at a 50%. So I found what I was supposed to be improving at, and it's just my break evens being more discretionary and having more of a narrative behind it rather than such mechanical emphasis, which was just making me suffer in long run data. But overall, both trades this week, I cooked on that sense. I cooked on this trade in terms of trade management, as all of this analysis was going on while I was actually in the trade, which is something I want to get better at, not just setting the trade and just closing the charts or like not caring about it, just waiting if it gets hit or not, because trade management is super important in the long run and it will save you from a lot of losses. So yeah, a lot of good little micro adjustments and shit like that, price reading, leading me to take full TP. So yeah, super good week, super good improvement, and yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna do the weekly recap, and seeing what I can improve for next week, because there's always room for improvement, room for refining, and I just want to get as perfect as possible, because you guys gotta understand that if you treat yourself to such a high standard and treat your trading as you're refining it with every single trade, with every single day, with every single little thing, just grabbing up like putting up a magnifying glass on it, my worst days are someone else's best, like most people's best days, because I hold myself to such a high regard. And if I'm holding like a magnifying glass up to my trading, and I can't even find a single mistake, that's perfection. And that's something that's not really possible, but I can strive for it. And in the process, that's what profitability is. Just striving for it, and in the process, that's when you see the P&L. That's when you see the dubs and shit. Although I don't really care about that now. But yeah, if that's what you're after, the dubs and all that bread and shit, then yeah, just try to refine and shit, and the rest will come right after, right? Right as a result of it, dude. Cause last week I went break even, and is like just cause I was trying to refine. Look at that, like low 2 trade week, but they were both bangers for 5K P&L. Like, I mean, that's pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's bad.